Questions. My dear friends, thank you so much for being here today. You know, people often ask me, how do I transform my life? And I tell them, my friend, questions. First, transform your habits, otherwise your habits will transform you. Today, I want to share 10 powerful keys that can dramatically change your life. Not tomorrow. Questions. Not next month, but starting today. So let's begin this journey with a smile, a little humor, a lot of honesty, and a heart full of intention. My friends, imagine this. Questions. You open Google Maps and type, "Take me somewhere nice." What will it say? Boss, where are you right now? In the same way, life cannot guide us unless we first know where we stand. Questions. Self-awareness is the first step to life transformation. Take time every day to ask, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? What direction am I moving in? As I always say, questions. If you don't know your location, you'll never reach your destination. It's very easy to play the blame game. Questions. My boss, my family, my past, my karma. But blaming gives away your power. The day you say, I am responsible for my life, is the day your life begins to change. Questions. Responsibility is not about guilt. It is about empowerment. Remember, you cannot change the world, but you can change your response to the world. Or two people see the same situation as opportunity. The other sees disaster. One sees rain and says, oh no. The farmer sees rain and says, yes. Well, life is 10% what happens and 90% how we see it. Questions. A small shift in thinking can create a massive shift in living. 4. The key of discipline. Small daily steps create giant results. People think dramatic change comes from dramatic actions. No. Questions. My friends, it comes from consistent small actions. 5 push-ups a day won't change your body. But do it every day for a year. Your life will change. Small meditation today. Questions. A little gratitude tonight. 1 positive habit every morning. This is how transformation happens. Tiny steps taken daily become giant leaps over time. If you put a seed in poor soil, questions, it will struggle. But if you put it in rich soil, even a small seed will flourish. Similarly, the people around you shape the person within you. Ask yourself, do they uplift me? Do they inspire me? Questions. Do they challenge me to grow? If not, politely limit your time and choose an environment that nourishes your growth. 6. The key of emotional mastery. Don't react. Questions. Respond. Life will always send tests, traffic, deadlines, misunderstandings, heartbreaks. Learn to pause, learn to breathe. Learn to respond, not react. Questions. Emotional mastery is not about suppressing emotions. It's about understanding them and expressing them with wisdom. A man once told me, nothing good happens in my life. I asked him questions. Do you breathe? He nodded. Then your life is already filled with blessings. Our gratitude is not a luxury. It's a necessity for a peaceful life. Every night ask questions. What went right today? Your mind will begin to focus on abundance, not lack. And where focus goes, energy flows. A life without purpose is like a ship without a compass. You may move questions, but you won't progress. Ask yourself, what makes me come alive? What impact do I want to create? What legacy do I want to leave behind? When your life has purpose, even challenges feel meaningful. Questions. When you know your why, every HOU becomes easier. We hold on to grudges, past mistakes, regrets, people who walked away, and then we wonder why our life feels heavy. My friends, questions. You cannot drive forward while constantly looking in the rear view mirror. Forgive, release, let go. Remember, letting go is not losing. Questions. Letting go is gaining peace. The secret to lasting happiness is very simple. Give time, give kindness, give love, give value. When you contribute to someone else's life, questions, you elevate your own. Service fills the heart with meaning, warmth, and deep joy. Final closing, a powerful ending. My dear friends, these 10 keys are not theories, questions. They are tools tools that can transform your life. Questions. My friends, awareness is that gentle whisper inside us that says, pause, look, listen. It is the ability to step out of the rush, step out of the noise, and ask ourselves questions. Where am I really going, and why am I going there? Without this awareness, we live life like someone driving a car with foggy glasses, moving fast but blind. Questions. And what's the use of speed if we are heading in the wrong direction? Awareness is the first key because every transformation begins with truth. And truth begins with seeing clearly. Questions. Let me give you a simple daily life example. Imagine you're in a mall and you want to find a particular store. You go to the big digital map and look for the place you want to go. Questions. But the most important thing you search for first is not the store. The most important thing you look for is that tiny red dot that says questions. You are here. Because no matter how beautiful the destination is, you cannot reach it unless you know where you are standing. This is awareness. Without that red dot, life becomes guesswork. Questions. In life too, most people know what they want: success, love, respect, peace, fulfillment. But very few know where they currently stand emotionally, financially, spiritually, and mentally. Questions. And that lack of awareness creates confusion, frustration, and unnecessary suffering. Awareness is like turning on the flashlight in a dark room. Questions. The darkness doesn't disappear because you shouted at it. It disappears simply because you switched on a light. And that light is awareness. Let's take another daily life example. Questions. Suppose someone is constantly angry. They snap at others, react without thinking, and later feel guilty. If you ask them why they reacted that way, many will say, questions. I don't know, it just happened. That I don't know is the absence of awareness. Anger is not the problem. The lack of awareness of what triggers the anger is the real challenge. Questions. The moment that person becomes aware, oh, I get irritated when I'm hungry, or when I feel unappreciated, or when I'm stressed, that awareness becomes the first step to change. Questions. Because once you know the cause, you can work on the cure. Awareness doesn't tell you what is right or wrong, it shows you what is. It shines light on your patterns, your emotional habits. Questions. Your thinking style, your reactions, your weaknesses, your strengths, your blind spots. And once you see things as they are, you no longer live on autopilot. Let me give you another example. Questions. Imagine you're gaining weight slowly. Each day you ignore the mirror. You pretend your clothes shrunk in the wash. You avoid weighing yourself. You remain unaware for weeks, even months. Questions. But one day you step on the scale and the truth hits you. That moment of awareness, uncomfortable as it may be, becomes the turning point. Without that awareness, questions. Any diet plan or gym membership is just wishful thinking. Awareness is like a mirror. It doesn't judge you. It simply reflects you. It shows you the truth even if you don't like what you see. Questions. And sometimes that honest reflection is all we need to begin the change. Another simple example, consider someone who feels stuck in life. They wake up, go to work, come back, scroll on their phone, questions, sleep, repeat, they feel empty. But unless they become aware of why they feel empty, maybe they're disconnected from their passion, maybe they haven't grown in years. Questions. Maybe their relationships lack depth. They will continue that same cycle for the next decade. Awareness is the moment you stop and say, this is not how I want to live. That moment is powerful. Questions. That moment is life-changing. I want to share a small story. A man once came to me saying, my life feels chaotic. I feel lost. I asked him, tell me about your day. He said, I wake up, questions, check my phone, rush to work, eat on the go, come home tired, watch something and sleep. I asked him, how often do you pause and reflect? He was silent. Questions. That silence was his first moment of awareness. I told him, my friend, your life is not chaotic, your mind is. and your mind feels chaotic because it never gets a break from reacting. That day, questions. He decided to spend just 5 minutes in stillness every morning. Within weeks, he said, I feel like I have found a missing part of myself. That missing part was awareness. Questions. Awareness is not meditation. Awareness is not spirituality. Awareness is simply being present enough to notice reality without distortion. Questions. Awareness is when you catch yourself scrolling endlessly and say, wait, why am I doing this? Awareness is when you feel sad and instead of distracting yourself, you ask questions. What is this sadness trying to tell me? Awareness is when you pause before reacting and ask questions. Is this the best version of me responding? Awareness is when you catch your mind wandering to the past or future and gently bring it back to the present. Awareness doesn't take hours. Questions. It takes a moment of honesty, a moment of observation. The beauty of awareness is that it makes us wiser without forcing us. When you become aware of a negative habit, questions, half the habit is already broken. When you become aware of a positive quality, half of it becomes stronger automatically. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. Questions. You can't heal what you don't understand. You can't grow from what you don't see. Awareness is the foundation of transformation. It is the beginning of every breakthrough. Questions. It is the spark that awakens the fire of growth. And once you master awareness, every other key to change becomes easier. Not because life becomes simple, but because you become clear. Questions. That is the power of awareness. Questions. Responsibility is one of the most powerful forces for transformation. It is the moment you look at your life and say, I may not control everything that happens. Questions. But I absolutely control how I respond to it. The day you accept responsibility is the day you stop giving your power away. In life, it's natural to blame. We blame traffic for our impatience. Questions. We blame our boss for our frustration. We blame our family for our stress. And sometimes we even blame destiny for our failures. But blame, my friends, is comforting only for a moment. Questions. After the comfort fades, we are left exactly where we started, stuck, powerless, and waiting for someone else to change our life. Responsibility is not about saying, everything is my fault. No. Questions. Responsibility is about saying, whatever is happening, I am willing to take charge of my response and my next step. It gives you back the steering wheel of your life. Questions. Let me share a simple daily life example. Imagine you oversleep and rush to work. On the way, the traffic is slow, a car cuts in front of you, and by the time you reach office, questions, you are frustrated and irritated. You blame the traffic, the driver, and even your alarm clock. But deep down, questions. If we look closely, the real issue began when you slept late the previous night or ignored your alarm in the morning. We blame external things because it feels easier. Questions. But responsibility gently points us inward. When you say, questions, I chose to sleep late, I ignored the alarm, I could have left earlier. Suddenly you realize that you had far more control than you thought. Questions. And this realization is not meant to make you feel guilty, it is meant to make you feel empowered. Because if your choices created the problem, your choices can also create the solution. Questions. Another example, think of someone who constantly complains about their job. They say, my job is boring, my manager is rude, my company doesn't appreciate me. But if you ask them questions, what have you done to change it? They often fall silent. Taking responsibility might mean learning new skills, communicating with the manager, or even exploring better opportunities. Questions. But that requires courage. Blame requires nothing. Blame is a comfortable cage. Responsibility is the key that sets you free. Questions. There is a beautiful story of a man who always complained that his house was too small, his income was too low, and his life was too stressful. A wise friend told him, questions. If you cannot change your circumstances immediately, change your attitude toward them. The man didn't like this answer. He said, "Why should I change? The problem is around me. Questions, not inside me." Months later, nothing improved because he was waiting for the world to change while he remained the same. Responsibility is the moment you understand. Questions. You may not choose the circumstances, but you always choose the attitude. Let me give you another common example. Imagine someone who wants to lose weight. They buy gym clothes, questions, watch fitness videos, talk about dieting, but they never actually exercise or change their eating habits. And then they say, questions, "My metabolism is bad, it's genetic, I have no time." But the truth is, the responsibility for their health lies in their hands. As long as they blame genetics or time, they stay stuck. Questions. The moment they say, "I will take ownership of my health," the transformation begins, not in the body first, but in the mind. Taking responsibility is not about adding more pressure. Questions. It is about reducing unnecessary suffering. When you take responsibility, you stop waiting for others to behave perfectly so that you can be peaceful. Questions. You stop waiting for the world to be ideal so that you can be happy. Responsibility gives you freedom from dependency. Think about your relationships. It's easy to say, questions, "He hurt me, she disappointed me, they don't understand me." But responsibility asks, what can I do to communicate better? How can I set healthier boundaries? Questions. How can I understand myself more deeply? This doesn't mean the other person is always right. It means you stop waiting for them to fix your emotional world. Questions. Responsibility makes you stronger because it shifts your focus from what you cannot control to what you can. Let's imagine a student who fails an exam. One student says, questions, "The teacher is unfair, the questions were tough, my friend distracted me." Another student says, "I didn't prepare well." Questions. "I'll study better next time." Who has a better chance of succeeding? The second student, not because they are smarter, but because they have taken ownership of their growth. Questions. The moment you stop blaming, you start learning. The moment you start learning, you start improving. And the moment you start improving, your life begins to rise. Questions. Responsibility is the birthplace of growth. Here's something important: taking responsibility does not mean you must control everything. It simply means you control your next step. Questions. If someone criticizes you unfairly, you may not control their words, but you control whether you carry that criticism in your heart or let it go. If a situation doesn't go your way, questions, you may not control the outcome, but you control how you move forward. Life becomes lighter when you stop playing the victim and start becoming the creator. Responsibility says, questions, I can create change, I can create growth, I can create meaning. When you embrace this mindset, blame slowly disappears, excuses fade, and possibilities open. And remember this simple truth: questions. The most powerful version of you is the one who takes responsibility, not out of pressure but out of purpose, not out of fear but out of understanding. Questions. The day you stop blaming and start owning your life is the day your true transformation begins. Questions. Mindset is the silent architect of your life. It shapes how you interpret experiences, how you deal with challenges, and how you respond to the world around you. Questions. Two people can go through the same situation and walk away with two completely different emotions. Not because the situation was different, but because their mindset was different. Questions. Your mindset is like a pair of glasses. If the lenses are dirty, everything looks unclear. If the lenses are cracked, life looks broken. But if the lenses are clean, questions, you see beauty even in ordinary things. That is why the moment you change your perspective, you begin to change your entire reality. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine it's raining heavily. Questions. One person looks out the window and says, "What terrible weather, my whole day is ruined." Another person looks at the same rain and says, "Ah, how beautiful." Questions. The earth is being refreshed. The rain didn't change, the perspective did. This is the magic of mindset. It doesn't change the event, it changes the experience. Questions. Think of a simple morning situation. You wake up late. Now, one mindset says, today is already spoiled. I'm so careless. Nothing will go right today. Another mindset says, okay, questions. I woke up late. Let me be calm, get ready quickly, and make the most of the remaining day. The late morning is the same questions, but the way you respond to it determines whether your day becomes stressful or peaceful. Life is full of moments like this, moments where your mindset decides whether you rise or fall. Questions. Let me share a daily life scenario. Suppose you're stuck in a long traffic jam. You can't move, you can't control the cars, you can't fly over them. But you can definitely control your mindset. Questions. You can choose to complain, honk unnecessarily, and build anger, or you can breathe, listen to some soothing music, reflect on something positive, or use that time to relax your mind. Questions. Traffic is a part of modern life. Suffering because of it is optional. When your mindset shifts, stress reduces automatically. Mindset also plays a huge role in relationships. Questions. Imagine you text a friend and they don't reply for a long time. One mindset says, they are ignoring me, they don't care, they don't value me. Another mindset says, questions. Maybe they are busy, maybe they are going through something. Maybe I am overthinking. Same situation, two completely different emotional outcomes. Questions. A simple shift in perspective can save relationships that would otherwise break due to misunderstandings. Let me tell you a small story. Two men worked in the same office. One said, questions. This job is exhausting. I hate coming here. The other said, this job is a blessing. It feeds my family and helps me grow. The job, the office, the workload, everything was the same. Questions. The difference was how they thought about it. One mindset turned work into a burden. The other turned work into gratitude. And guess who was happier? Not the one with the easier job, questions, but the one with a better mindset. Now imagine someone facing a challenge, maybe financial difficulty, maybe a health issue, maybe emotional pain. One mindset says, why is this happening to me? Questions, life is unfair. Another mindset says, this challenge is tough, but it is teaching me something. I will grow from this. The first mindset makes the challenge heavier. Questions. The second mindset makes the person stronger. Mindset is not about ignoring problems. It is about approaching them with clarity and courage instead of fear and frustration. Questions. When you change your perspective, you don't reduce the problem. You increase your capacity to handle it. Think of a child learning to walk. They fall again and again. Questions. But their mindset is so pure that they don't interpret falling as failure. They interpret it as learning. That's why they get up smiling each time. If adults had the same mindset, questions, they would never fear trying new things. Imagine you're learning something new, a skill, a language, a task. A fixed mindset says, questions, I'm not good at this, I'll never learn. A growth mindset says, I'm not good yet, but I will get better with practice. That one word, yet, turns discouragement into motivation. Questions. It shifts you from limitation to possibility. Mindset also affects happiness. Some people have everything yet stay unhappy because their mind focuses only on what is missing. Questions. Others have less but live joyfully because their mind focuses on what they have. Happiness is not always a matter of possessions. Often it is a matter of perspective. Take this common example. Questions. You plan a perfect day out, but something goes wrong, the weather changes, the restaurant is full, or the plan gets delayed. One mindset says, questions. Great, everything is ruined. Another mindset says, unexpected things happen, let's adapt and still enjoy the day. The difference is not in the day, questions, but in the mindset managing the day. Mindset is also crucial in self-confidence. Many people look at their weaknesses and say, I can't do it. But a strong mindset says questions. I can learn, I can try, I can improve. Every successful person has failed many times, but their mindset converted failure into feedback instead of self-doubt. Questions. Let me give one more simple example. You spill water on the floor. Now, you can either say, I'm so clumsy, and drag guilt for hours, or you can simply clean it up and move on. Questions. The first option punishes you. The second option empowers you. Same mistake, different mindset. Your mindset determines the quality of your emotional life. Questions. It decides whether you turn small issues into mountains or mountains into manageable steps. It defines whether you react impulsively or respond wisely. Questions. It decides whether you live life in fear or in trust. When you choose a positive mindset, life doesn't suddenly become perfect, but you become better equipped to face it with strength, peace, questions, and clarity. Questions. Discipline is that quiet, dependable friend who may not seem exciting at first, but over time becomes the strongest pillar of your success. Questions. Many people wait for motivation to strike them like lightning, but motivation is like a guest. It comes and goes. Discipline, however, is like a loyal companion. It stays when motivation leaves. Questions. And that is why discipline creates results that inspiration alone cannot. Most people think transformation comes from grand decisions, dramatic actions, or some magical turning point. Questions. But the truth is far more humble. Life changes through tiny, consistent steps repeated daily, even when they're not easy and even when nobody is watching. Let me give you a simple daily life example. Questions. Suppose someone decides they want to get fit. They get excited, buy new shoes, join a gym, take pictures for Instagram, and then after 1 week, the excitement fades. Why? Questions. Because motivation started the journey, but discipline was needed to continue it. Questions. And discipline is built not in moments of excitement, but in moments of resistance, when you don't feel like doing it, but you do it anyway. If you walk for just 10 minutes every day. Questions. You may not see results immediately. In fact, the first week you may even feel nothing is changing. But discipline is like compound interest. The results are small at first. Questions. Then suddenly they grow in ways you never imagined. 10 minutes becomes 20. A month becomes 6 months. And one day people say, hey, wow. Questions. What a transformation. But you know it wasn't one big effort. It was hundreds of small decisions stacked together. Take another example. Imagine you want to learn a new language. Questions. If you spend 3 hours one day and then quit for weeks, you'll forget everything. But if you learn 5 new words every day, in just 1 year you will know over 1,800 words. Questions. That is the power of discipline. Small efforts multiplied over time produce extraordinary outcomes. Let's consider mornings. Many people say, questions. Tomorrow I will wake up early. But when the alarm rings, their mind negotiates just 10 more minutes. And those 10 minutes become 30, then an hour. But imagine if day after day, questions. You trained your mind to get up at the first ring. You would begin your day with victory. Because the first battle of the morning is not with the alarm, but with the mind. Questions. Discipline gives you the courage to win that battle. Another daily life example is finances. Many people say, I have no savings, but they never track their spending or save even a small amount. Questions. If someone saves even a very modest amount daily, say the money spent on 1 cup of tea, they would be surprised how much it becomes in 1 year. Discipline turns small amounts into big achievements. Questions. Discipline isn't only about doing big things. It's about doing small things consistently. Questions. Making your bed in the morning, keeping your room clean, reading for 10 minutes, drinking enough water, practicing gratitude, spending time with yourself, limiting distractions. These habits may seem simple. Questions. But they shape your mindset, your emotions, your confidence, and your character. Let me share a beautiful example. A student once told me, I want to top my exams, I asked questions. How many hours do you study daily? He replied, only when exams are close. I told him, excellence is not an act. Questions. It is a habit. If he studied even one chapter a day throughout the year, he wouldn't need to panic during exams. Questions. Success would have become natural because discipline would have prepared him long before the result day. Discipline is also crucial in relationships. Many people start relationships with excitement, questions, affection, and enthusiasm. But over time, they stop making small efforts, sending a thoughtful message, listening attentively, spending quality time, expressing gratitude. Questions. Great relationships are not built on grand gestures. They are built on daily discipline of loveness and presence. Another example, managing emotions. When someone gets angry, questions. Disciplined people pause, breathe, and choose their response wisely. It takes discipline not to react instantly. It takes discipline to remain calm. But every time you practice control, questions, your inner strength grows. Slowly, you become a master of your emotions instead of becoming a victim of them. Discipline may feel tough in the beginning, questions, but the reward is always greater than the effort. A disciplined life gives you clarity. It gives you focus. It gives you peace. When your habits are aligned with your goals, questions, you don't have to struggle. You naturally move forward. Think of a sculptor chiseling a stone. One strike does nothing. 10 strikes show no change. But thousands of small taps shape a masterpiece. Questions. Life works the same way. Each small disciplined action carves your future, shapes your character, and builds your destiny. Let me share a simple truth. Questions. Discipline is choosing what you want most over what you want now. You may want to sleep now, but you want a healthier body more. You may want to scroll your phone now, questions, but you want a peaceful mind more. You may want to avoid the task now, but you want growth more. When the long-term desire becomes more important than the short-term comfort, questions, discipline becomes natural. And once discipline becomes natural, success becomes inevitable. In the end, discipline is not about perfection. It is about consistency, not about intensity, questions, but persistence. It is the commitment to keep showing up, even on boring days, even on difficult days, even on days when no one applauds. It is the quiet force that says, questions, I will keep going, I will keep improving, I will grow step by step. And slowly, those small steps transform you into someone powerful, peaceful, and unstoppable. Questions. Your environment is like the soil in which you plant your life. Even the strongest seed cannot grow in poor soil, but an ordinary seed can flourish beautifully in the right conditions. In the same way, questions, your surroundings, your people, your habits, your space, your influences shape your growth more than you imagine. Questions. You cannot change your life if you remain in the same environment that created your problems. Think about this. If you place a rose plant in a dark room, water it daily, questions, care for it lovingly, it will still struggle to grow. Not because the rose is weak, but because the environment is wrong. But if you place the same plant in sunlight, in fresh air, in the right soil, questions, it starts blooming without effort. That is the power of environment. It can either nurture you or limit you. Consider a daily life example. Imagine you want to eat healthy. You buy fruits, vegetables, questions, and good groceries. But if your kitchen is filled with chips, sugary snacks, soft drinks, and quick junk food, your environment will defeat your intention. Even with strong willpower, questions, you will give in because the environment around you makes the unhealthy option easier than the healthy one. But if your kitchen is stocked only with good choices, questions, you automatically begin eating better. Not because you became stronger, but because your environment supported your strength. Let's take another simple example of studying. A student wants to focus, questions, but their room is messy, the phone is buzzing every 2 minutes, the TV is on in the background, and notifications are flashing constantly. Even a brilliant student will struggle in that environment. Questions. But place the same student in a clean room, silent atmosphere, organized desk, and you will see their performance rise dramatically. Not because they became more intelligent overnight. Questions. But because their environment became more supportive. Your environment doesn't just influence your actions, it influences your thinking. Surround yourself with negative, cynical, complaining people. Questions. And slowly their thoughts become your thoughts. Their fears become your fears. Their limitations become your limitations. You start seeing the world through their lens. Questions. But place yourself among people who inspire you, uplift you, challenge you, and encourage you, and your mindset gradually transforms. You begin to dream bigger, think better, and live wiser. Questions. One powerful example is fitness. Go to the gym alone and you might skip reps, but go with a dedicated friend and you suddenly push harder. You lift more. You stay consistent. Why? Questions. Because a motivated environment multiplies your own motivation. Now let's talk about digital environment, the one we carry in our pockets. If your social media is filled with negativity, questions, comparisons, gossip, unnecessary drama, and content that drains you, it silently shapes your mood every day. You may not notice it immediately, but over months it affects your self-esteem, questions, your thoughts, and your emotions. However, if your feed is filled with positivity, learning, inspiration, wisdom, and growth, you start feeling lighter, stronger, clearer. The same phone, questions, same scrolling, but the environment becomes uplifting instead of draining. Another daily life situation, imagine a workplace where everyone complains. Work is too much, boss is rude, questions, life is unfair. In such an environment, even if you begin your day positively, by afternoon your energy becomes heavy. But imagine a workplace where people appreciate each other, help each other, questions, discuss ideas instead of problems, your energy remains high, you work better, feel better, and grow better. Your physical environment matters too. When your room is cluttered, questions, your mind becomes cluttered. When your desk is chaotic, your thoughts become chaotic. Cleaning your space is not just about tidiness, it is about creating a mental atmosphere where clarity can live. Questions. A simple act like organizing your room can create a surprising shift in your mood and momentum. Let me share a small but powerful example. A young man once told me, questions, I don't know why I feel demotivated all the time. I asked him to describe his routine. He said he wakes up late, watches negative news first thing in the morning. Questions. Keeps his room dark with curtains closed, spends most of his time alone, and listens to sad songs. I gently smiled and said, my friend, nothing is wrong with you. Questions. It's your environment that is draining your energy. He changed his routine, opened the curtains, listened to uplifting music, added some positive influences, cleaned his room, questions, and spent time with inspiring people. Within a few weeks, he felt more alive. The change wasn't magic, it was environmental alignment. Here's a truth to remember. Questions. You absorb the energy of the environment you live in. If you live in a peaceful place, you feel peaceful. If you live in a chaotic space, you feel chaotic. If you live around dreamers, questions, you start dreaming. If you live around complainers, you start complaining. Even plants sense their environment and respond accordingly. Human minds are far more sensitive. Questions. We grow best where we feel valued, respected, encouraged, and understood. Sometimes changing your environment means changing your circle. Sometimes it means changing your habits. Questions. Sometimes it means changing your physical surroundings. And sometimes it simply means changing what you consume, mentally and emotionally. You don't need a perfect environment. Questions. You need a supportive one. You need a place physically, digitally, socially, emotionally, where your growth feels natural and your potential feels welcome. Because in the end, questions. No matter how talented you are, no matter how motivated you feel, no matter how big your dreams are, Your environment will either fuel you forward or hold you back silently. Choose wisely. Questions. Because growth is not just about effort, it's about planting yourself in the right soil.